Hello everybody, welcome to the Hyundai Kona N. I am Thanasi and I'm excited to walk you through what we are doing to this Kona in the Kona N update. In this video, we're going to touch on what I've done to the car, why I've done it, and what I think about it, because I think these two changes that you make to this Kona actually make it one of the best options in this segment, and we'll talk about the price rolled into it to compare it to other things. You've seen the other videos on this channel, and two common themes come up when I talk about the Hyundai Kona N. Number one, the suspension is just too stiff. Now, we can attribute some of the ride to the short wheelbase of the Hello, sir. Thank you for noticing that I'm driving on this road as well. All right, anyway, so you'll notice in other videos with the Hyundai Kona N, the suspension is just very stiff. Now, a lot of folks want to attribute the bounciness of this car to the short wheelbase, but that's just not the case. The suspension on this car definitely rides really stiff, especially in the stiffer modes like N, like Sport. The suspension in this car is damn near unbearable unless you are on a perfectly smooth and flat track. So that was problem number one. Problem number two, and that played a part in problem number one, was this wheel and tire setup. The low profile in the 19 inches didn't do us any favors when it comes to dealing with any bumps or potholes like we find in these Boston roads that if you're in New England like me, you deal with every single day. So I said to myself, okay, look, coilover options exist for the Hyundai Kona N. Let's do that. Wheel and tires, it's 5x114, so there's plenty of options for this car. Let's do that as well. So do that I did. Contacted Devin over at Fortune Auto, and we got some Fortune Auto 500 coilovers in this car with one major caveat. Now, folks that own Hyundai Kona N's, Elantra N's, or other vehicles understand that when you switch modes, okay, one of the things this Kona N does is adjust the suspension dampening, right? In the sportier settings, it gives you a sportier ride, which in Hyundai speak just means jitter your fillings out. Well, in order to put a other aftermarket coilover setup in and not have the computer freak out when you switch modes like this and it's trying to change the suspension and there's nothing there and it's throwing lights, throwing codes, whatever, you have to also order a KW suspension canceller. Now, it doesn't have to be from KW. I'm sure other options exist. However, when I tend to do anything to an automobile, I try to do it once, do it right, even if that means spending a little bit more. Now, I'll put all the links to everything I purchased in the description, including the people I work with, in case you want to work with them as well. But I ordered KW suspension cancelers, so now when we go between modes, it's not a problem. And obviously, you guys know this car isn't adjusting its suspension setup like it used to in stock form because we're putting a static coilover setup in this car. So we put coilovers, we put suspension cancelers, and we also did wheel and tire. Now, the wheel and tire one is a big one for me. I remember growing up, one of the things that I would always talk about, I don't know, this bus is just all over the place. This is kind of wild. One of the things that I would always talk about was just, you know, upsizing wheels, right? When we were growing up, late 2000s, late 90s, whatever, the wheel and tire package that was going on stock was always 1 or 2 inches too small. I remember I had a TSX and I went from 17s to 19s just because it fit the overall image of that body better. But now recently, in the 2020s, if you will, it makes more sense to go the opposite direction. Automakers are putting wheels that are just too damn large on their cars, and because of that, the profile of the tire is just too small. So not only do the aesthetics not really match, I'm looking at you, Civic Type R and Hyundai Kona N, but also the tire size means that the ride we're getting out of this car isn't doing us any favors. A lot of people like to attribute things first to suspension and completely ignore the tire setup, but the tire setup plays as much, if not more, of a crucial role to a car's overall ride than the suspension setup does. So that is definitely definitely something to keep in mind if you are thinking about modifying your vehicle. So with that description underway, you know that I downsized the wheel setup. We went from a 19, which is OEM on the Hyundai Kona N, to an 18. And going that setup allowed us to put a thicker tire, which I am hoping bettered the ride. So, quick summary: coilovers, cancelers, wheel and tire. Those are what we did to this car. Now, the wheels I chose, SSR GTX01s. I am a JDM kid at heart and a massive Volk SSR wet sport fan. Quality wheels, great price. These SSRs out the door were well under $2,000. Now, I know cheaper wheel options exist, okay? Hyundai Kona N folks, you know that there are cheaper wheel options out there, but cheap doesn't equal better. And for me, I like to do it once, I like to do it right. I am not worried about these wheels bending over harsh bumps. I'm not worried about anything cracking. I know the strength because the reputability of SSR is there. No real torque steer here. We brake into this little corner. Steering feels nice. We're riding flat. The suspension is doing a good job at dealing with any of the bumps or undulation in the road, and that is the key marker for this suspension setup. That is why, if for no other reason, you swap the suspension in the Hyundai Kona. But on the road like this, what a softer suspension setup also does is make you realize the imperfections less. When the Hyundai Kona N was stock, expansion joints like you're seeing right now, you not only would hear going over, but you would feel. The car would bounce, the car would balk, the car would just roly-poly all over the place. And you saw in our MPG video, I had the camera mounted right here pointing out, it fell multiple times just going over regular expansion joints. Now, we just hit a bump, no problem. This car does not bounce, this car does not jostle, this car does not get upset over expansion joints, it's not hard, and obviously this is any mode, right, because this is static. The roll is pretty similar to stock format. You don't get increased roll with the softer ride, which is nice. You have more confidence in situations like these, right? If you're rounding a corner like this one where there's potentially a couple bumps, you know because of the softer ride that you could stay in it because the car is taking these bumps no problem. Versus before, the car was sort of hop, skipping, and jumping, and with that, you're almost like jostling the throttle a little bit. So you're getting a vehicle that now gets close to cars like the Volkswagen GTI in terms of on-road comfort. It's still as fun as it was before, giving you that road trip ability, giving you that easier commute home, giving you that easier, longer ride, something that the Kona N could do before, but you were making some sacrifices because of the suspension and the wheel tire setup.